Ugg here with Two Salt Travel, and today I want to show you how to tie Ugg's swimming shrimp. This is a neat little fly that I designed for fishing for permit in Cuba. There's a couple of unique features about it. One is this tail here. The tail has a foul guard built into it, which you can see right there. And so that foul guard is 30-pound fluoro, and it's going to help keep the tail swimming sort of upright when the fly's in the water, and it's also going to keep it from fouling around the hook. So this fly will ride hook up like this, and when you look at videos of shrimp swimming, their tails angle upwards away from their body. So that's one feature that mimics that swimming shrimp. And then this right here is actually, it's part of the body, but it's meant to mimic their legs as they're kicking along when they swim. If you look at a shrimp when it swims, it actually swims with its head forward and its tail going out the rear. And its little legs are what propel it along. It's not its tail that makes it swim. So this material here, it mimics the legs. And then what we normally call the legs are its antennae. Now you got 4 antennae, and these are Montana Fly Company Centipede Legs. But you got 2 on the bottom going rearward, and then when this thing gets in the water, this will actually bend backwards like this. Both of these will bend kind of backwards like this as it swims through the water, and that mimics the antenna curving backwards as the shrimp is swimming through the water. So a neat little shrimp pattern. I designed it to look like nothing else that was out there at the time, and I've had really good luck. I actually caught a permit on this fly when I was down on that trip in Cuba, so that was really neat. Pulled him right off the back of a stingray on a dead calm flat. He wanted it bad, so bad that he actually ate it twice. On the first strip set, I missed him, and then he followed it, ate it again, and then I got him on the second strip set, and I stuck him really good with the fly right in his mouth. And so this is a really fun little pattern to tie up, and it'll be something in your box that's unlike any of your other shrimp patterns. So I hope you enjoy this video. Next, let's take a look at how to wind one of these up. Okay, you're going to want to start off by putting a hook in the vise, and here I'm using a Tiemco 800S. This is a size 2. This is a size 4. And to it, I'm going to cast on my thread. And today I'm using Uni Thread. This is the 3/0 in tan. And I can just go ahead and cast on right behind the eye of the hook. And you can use 3/0 or 6/0 if you want here. Later on when I'm palmering the dubbing on, I like to use the 3/0 for that, because it's usually really nice and strong. So advance the thread forward down the shank of the hook to the bend of the hook, right about there. And the first thing we're going to add are some Zonker strips. This is rabbit, and it's in tan. And so pull some of that out. And then you just want to pick one that's going to be about 1/8 of an inch And then the overall length of this tail is going to be from the hide roughly about the length of the overall length of the hook. And then I just want a little bit to tie in with, so I'm going to go another 1/4 inch longer than that, and I can cut that off of the strip. So lay that material on the hook. And then when you get it about where you want it, I like to, pinch it off with my thumb, the fingernail of my thumb, and do, one loose wrap. And one other thing I want to show you before we move forward is I want to tie this in with the hide facing up. And then, so the fur of this rabbit strip is going to be facing down against the shank. So yeah, get that where you want it. And you want it on there so that it's kind of going down the, going down that bend just a little bit. So a couple loose, and then if you need to manipulate it a little bit here before you move forward, now's a good time to do that before you really cinch it down. I'm just going to kind of make sure I got that right where I want it. And then I'm going to use some tight wraps to really lash that onto the shank of the hook. And then you can trim off your excess. And cut that off kind of close because you don't want to build up the fly too much. And then I want it to be about the hook length, and so I'm just a little bit longer than that, so I can just trim that end right off of there. Okay, next we're going to put in, I've been using a foul guard for this fly, just because the tail of this thing can, when it gets wet and soppy, it can flip back around and get stuck inside the gape of the hook there. So I've been using a foul guard with this tail, and the way that I like to do the foul guard is I'm going to put a little hole right here in the hide. Just be careful when you want to go right in the center of that thing, and once you get your very sharp scissors to go through there, then you want to just kind of auger that out just a little bit to get that through. So what I did is I put a little hole right there in the center of the hide, and to it I'm going to take some 30-pound fluorocarbon. You can use mono, anything you want. 30 pounds about the lightest that I'll use for like a foul guard, or a for like a weed guard. And you can see this thing's got a little bit of a curve to it, and so I'm going to want to tie that with the curve down. But first of all, I want to take that and just push it right through that little hole. There we go. Sometimes it can be difficult to find. And then you just want that, just poke that through so that you've got some excess, and then you can lay that flat where you want it. And for me, I like it when this thing rides right on the very top. You don't want it kind of curving off to one side or the other. So just capture it with a loose wrap, and then just like you did the hide, You know, really lash that thing down with some tight wraps. And then you can cut off your excess. Nice and close. Now when this tail gets wet, you know, you can stretch it quite a bit. So you notice that I've left that foul guard long. You know, about the same, a little longer than the hide of the rabbit strip. And so that allows it to get some stretch. And also, if this thing pulls apart for some reason when you're casting it, you can just poke it right back through the little hole you made. I just get so tired of, you know, the time when this thing is gonna fail on you if you didn't have the foul guard in there, is the one time you'll be casting at a fish. You know, like 100 times it won't foul, and then that one time that you cast it at a permit, you'll bring it back only to discover that the fish refused it, most likely because the tail had fouled on that one cast. So that's just a neat little way that you can add a foul guard to the tail without adding a lot of bulk to the fly, and it looks nice. Okay, so next, before we move on, I like to take a little bit of this fur from one of the rabbit strips, and we're just going to create a little mouth. And so what I do is I grab that fur, you know, about 1 inch worth, and then I'm going to cut it free from the hide. You know, so I just have a little clump of rabbit fur here, you know, something about like that. You can try and equal up your tips if you can by kind of rotating your fingers, you know, around. You know, you kind of pinch and roll until you get the tips, you know, kind of close to being in line. And then I like to lay that rabbit fur, on to the strip, and lay it on there so it kind of hides the hide and the foul guard that we just put on there. And I like to put it on there with the loose wraps again, and then you can, as you get it on there, you can really start cranking it down until you get back to where you tied in those last wraps at the tail. So just, you don't want to keep going down the hook shank, but you also don't want to be too far up at the, you know, way back here towards the eye of the hook. And then you can cut that free. I'll just kind of clean that up. And then we'll put a few wraps right there. Okay, before I go on, I really like to secure everything with a little bit of super glue. That tail where you attached it to the hook, that's kind of a spot where that thing can kind of spin around, water gets in there. So I like to just kind of paint that with super glue. You know, you don't want to make a total mess, but just get that in there on those thread wraps. Try and get that to secure really well. It's not the end of the world if the tail spins a little bit, but you like it when it's when it just is really bonded to the hook shank there. Okay, and then next we're ready for some eyes, and so we're going to tie in those eyes right there at the point of the hook. And so these are Hareline brass eyes that are painted. And these ones are they're the large. And the large, it ends up being just the size down from the quarter. So it's about 3/16, I want to say. And then these are painted in a fluorescent orange. And to it, once I get this thing on there, I'm going to add a little eye. You can see how it doesn't have, it's just an orange dumbbell eye. They're brass, so they're not particularly heavy. But the idea is to make this fly ride with the hook point up. And so this is going to help with that. So I lash that on there with 2, just crossing over the fly, like so. And then I can position this thing where I want it, and then I can go over the other way, like so. And then I just want to do my cable tie. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. Cable tie, so I go up and over on my side, under the hook shank, up and over on your side, under the hook shank. And I just keep repeating that process until I've got it right lashed down under the hook shank. It doesn't take too many, but you don't want to do too few. And then to finish it off, you're going to go under the eyes and over the top of the hook shank, and you go around and around, and that'll really cinch those cable ties down really good. And hopefully in the end what you're left with is a very secure eyes that don't easily move. But at this point you don't want to stop and move on. You want to get some glue in there to try and hold that all together, because water will really seep in there and mess it up. Get some glue right on the thread wraps there on the bottom as well as on the top. And then if you've gotten kind of messy with your glue, I just like to get in there with my finger and clean it all up. Okay, so now you're ready for a dubbing loop. And so pull off about 10 inches here of thread from the hook shank to your bobbin, and then put your pinky finger on top of it, and then double it back over to the hook again. And then I go around the hook shank, and then I go around the 2 pieces of thread twice, and then back over the hook shank, and then I can get this right where I want it to start by advancing the thread towards the bend of the hook. And once I get that in the position where I want it back here at the tail, I can advance the thread forward back to the eye of the hook. And for our dubbing material, we're going to use Senyo's laser dub in tan. So pull off a decent clump of that, something about like so. And then pull some fibers off of the little clump you got there. And sometimes the super glue on my fingers at this point sticks to the dubbing pretty good. But that's okay. And then you're just going to stack these on top of one another in between the 2 pieces of thread, and you're just going to build up a nice little dubbing brush. Like so. So it's about 3 inches or so, and then I can reach up here and pinch the two pieces of thread together, spin my pinky finger around a couple of times, and now that'll help secure those fibers so they don't fall out while I'm grabbing my tool. And this has got the two shepherd's ends, so I'm just going to capture the loop with the tool, and now I can spin it up. And you don't want to overdo it, but you also don't want to underdo it. So get a nice little noodle going, like so. I'm going to grab it with my hackle pliers here. And then cut it free from the tool. And now I can start brushing that out. I just want to pull those fibers perpendicular to the core. Just get them to kind of stand up in there. And if there's a little spot where it's kind of clumpy, you just want to kind of clear it off a little bit. And now you're ready to start winding this around and build up a nice little body, nice little palm, and you palmer it rearward. As you advance forward until you get right behind the eyes, and then you can go ahead and capture that. Two or three turns, three or four, whatever, and then cut that free. Okay. So you can brush this material out. And so you want to do so by getting those fibers to stand back up again. When I designed this fly, I designed this part of it to be the body of the rear half of the fly, but also to simulate the legs, you know, as the shrimp is swimming along. And this will ride hook up. I'll do it so more like, you know, you can see those legs will just be kicking along like this, and that's what this dubbing material is going to simulate, was the theory behind it, at least. And then if you look at videos of shrimp swimming, you know, they don't like swim away from their predator. When they're trying to avoid the predator, they do, but when they're just swimming along, they swim, you know, with their head forward and their tail behind them. And their tail kind of props up at an angle, and so that's why you tie this tail in like so, is to simulate the tail as it kind of angles upward, and then these fibers act like the little legs of the shrimp as it's kicking. And when a shrimp is swimming like that, they don't swim with their tail. Their tail stays stable like that, and it's the little legs that are kicking along. And so that's what we're trying to create right here. So get those fibers to stand. I'll show you this again. I've just kind of taken these fibers. You can kind of pick them out, right? Stand them up. and then part them on both sides of the hook, and then comb them down one side and then comb them down the other side, so they're going on both sides of that. This is the top of the fly. Then you can spin it back over again, and you can see here that everything's going now onto the bottom of the fly. And take this and just kind of angle your scissors, and you're going to kind of cut around and down. And then I kind of, so you're left with like a little mohawk. It looks like Mr. T, right? And then I'll kind of go again. And I'm just trying to get these to look, you know, like they're just kicking away back there. Okay? And then you're ready to tie in the antenna and well, they're the legs, but really it's the antenna. So I've got my pearl crystal flash. So I'm going to pull off one strand of pearl. I'm going to lay it down here. And then I'm going to pull off a strand of the black crystal flash. Get a better one. A little longer. So one strand of the black. You know, kind of lay them together. You can equal them up a little bit if you need to, but go around your thread. And just secure that on top, which is really going to be the bottom of the fly. But so they'll go right in between the eyes and just kind of pull them backwards. If you have a material keeper, put them in there just to kind of keep them out of the way. And then we're going to add, oh, and another thing I like to do, we'll do it at the end actually, it'll be better there. Is, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some centipede legs in here. This is from Montana Fly Company, and this is in the tan. And so you can see these guys have a little curvature to them. So just pull out two of them. And you're just going to lay one on one side with it curving inward. Loose wrap to capture it. A couple of tight morns to kind of lash it down. And then one on this other side. You know, curving downward or inward. You know, just anything the best you can. And then secure that down in front of the eye there, and then you can cut off your excess. And hopefully you'll do that without. Now here I like to separate out, so I'm going to do two of the black and one leg, and then one pearl and one black and one leg on one side of the fly, and then one pearl and one black on the other side of the fly. And then I'm just going to do a couple of these cable ties around just to kind of secure everything, you know, roughly about where I want it. So basically you've got them parted like that. So I've got one pearl, one black on this side with a leg, and then one pearl and one black going off the other side with a leg. And now I'm ready to build up a little tapered body right here, and then I can go back here and I'm going to start a dubbing loop. So I'm going to pull off about 10 to 12 inches, grab it with my pinky finger, double it back around, go around the thread twice, and then secure it where I want to start this brush. And again, we're just using Senyo's laser dub. I'm going to pull off a good clump of it and start stacking that material in there. Just keep stacking that right on up there. And then pinch it off. Right at where you put the last little bit of material in. Spin it a couple times. And you can see how that just kind of spins that material in there just a little bit. Enough so that I can grab it with the tool. And it won't all just kind of fall out of there. Okay, next you want to start spinning that up. And just make a nice little noodle. Don't overdo it. You can go a lot more with this 3/0. This is where I like having that 3/0 thread. It will build up the fly quicker when you're adding material, but at this stage it's really nice to have a good strong thread. So cut that free from the tool once you get it on your pliers there, and then you can brush that material out. And see a couple spots in there where it's kind of dense on the cord. You just want to try and stand that material out because you don't want to build up. Alright, my camera paused right there, so you can advance this thing forward and start palmering the material rearward with each turn. And then I've got my thread stopped right here about, what's about a good 1/8 of an inch or more back from the end right here. And that's where I'm going to stop this palmering. And that's going to give me some room for the antenna on the front. Just kind of keep pulling that material back until you get to your stopping point right there, and then capture it with the thread and cinch it down with 2 or 3 on top of, and then a couple in front of, and then cut that off nice and close. And then you can kind of pull that material rearward, and then just give it a nice little head right there. If you need to, you can cut off some of the material that's going forward. Every once in a while you'll capture some of that dubbing and it'll go forward. So just clean up your head just a little bit. And next we're going to take these centipede legs again and cut 2 off of there. And then you're going to tie one. I'll tie the one on your side first. I can do so by facing the curve towards the camera there. Face the curve towards you, and then I'll peel that thing back. And then when I turn the thread over, it's going to flip it. And so what I've got now is you might have to reposition it. To get it where you like it. Something about like that. And then you can use some wraps to really cinch it down. Actually, I don't want to go too far forward, so I'm just going to kind of come back a little bit. Yeah, get a couple of wraps just to kind of crank that thing down, and then move to your other side here. And then do this side. You do one loose just to kind of get it where you want it, and then a couple of tight to crank it down. And then cut off these ends here. And then you can hide your work with a few thread wraps once you get that cut off close. So yeah, now I can just kind of hide my work right there and build up a nice, clean little head. And then I like to go in front of these guys and try and pull them outward while I'm doing my whip finish. So if you can, just kind of get these guys going rearward, like so, and then grab your whip finish tool. Capture all that in there. Oops, it's not working. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, and hopefully when you do so, that'll kind of splay those out like so. And then you can cut this free. You can do another whip finish if you want, but I'm going to skip it at this point. And so I've got these guys about where I want them. So I kind of show you that from the side there. And at this point, I like to put some UV resin on there. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of that resin on there, and that'll lock in the thread wraps. But then I'm also going to use it to position the legs as well. Get them just where I want them. So yeah, I'm just going to paint that in there. Trying to just do it kind of cleanly. Get a little bit in between the eye of the hook and that leg there. And I've got it pretty good, just like it is right there. So I'm just going to hit it with the light right now. A lot of times I can, if I can use my fingers or something to kind of hold it in the position where I want it. But I actually had it tied in there pretty good, so I'm just going to go ahead and seal it up just like it is. And we're almost done. There's just a couple more things to do to this fly, and then we're just about finished. So first things first, let's take this material and brush it upward. Be careful that you don't pull your antenna and everything in there when you do so, but just try and get those fibers to comb, upwards. You just want them straight, going straight up again. Everything has a tendency, as you wind it around the hook shank, has a tendency to kind of stand up. So you just want to or has a tendency to, you know, wind around it. So just get those fibers going, you know, more perpendicular to the hook shank. And so once you get it like this, here I like to go at kind of an angle about like so. Be careful that you don't cut your legs off at this point. And then just go around the fly and just start cutting. If you get some stray fibers that are kind of long, just clip them down. And also cut your legs off. I'll cut them off usually about where the hide is on the rabbit strip for the tail. So they're really rather short legs. And the reason that is the legs actually mimic the antenna of the shrimp at its head when it's swimming away. They'll curve around and follow. So they curve around like this and follow, and there's 4 of them. So 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And so these little legs resemble the antennas on the bottom. And then I'm going to cut off my black Krystal flash about 3/4 of an inch longer than the legs. And then the pearl Krystal flash, I'm going to cut those 3/4 of an inch longer than the black Krystal flash. Okay, so we're getting there. We're almost done. You can just clean this fly up. So next we want to just paint some eyes on this fly. Finished giving this guy a haircut. Sometimes you have to get in here with your scissors and kind of clean out around the eye. You know, you might have gotten a little built up a little bit of dubbing on one side or another. So just take a few minutes to make sure that the dubbing is kind of not coming over the eye, if you can. And just clean that up, because when you're about to use a black marker, you don't want to get that thing everywhere. Oh yeah, so that's pretty good for the shape of the fly. You don't want it to be too wild and woolly. So when you're tying this fly, you want to give it a nice shape. Envision what you think a shrimp looks like in your mind, and then try and make it look similar to that. But try and keep it on the slender side. You don't want it too woolly. And next, just take a fine point permanent marker, and then you're just going to paint some little pupils on there on both sides. And that just kind of finishes her off. All right. So yeah, great little pattern for permit, bonefish, basically anything that eats shrimp. If you like this video, please click subscribe on my channel, and that way we'll get you the newest videos on fly tying and fly fishing instructional videos as soon as we get them uploaded. Thanks for watching. Bye.